What challenges do you imagine refugees face during the resettlement process in the United States? This was a great conversation. Everybody had a lot to say about it. Language is a huge factor. Bentley from the IRC pointed out that individuals who to gain citizenship have 5 years to receive citizenship. And when they go through that process, they need to know a level of English in order to receive that. And so upon trying to gain work when they first get here, because of the culture shock, because of trauma that they face, because they are refugees coming to a different country. Their educational levels we talked about, having that language and the urgency of it. If you want to become a citizen in 5 years, it's a lot. It's a lot. So the housing, the language, mental health, culture shock. So that was just a really fluid conversation that we had, and a really great conversation pieces from group 7. So thanks everybody.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing, Joanne. Are there others who may be able to share back from their group? And I'll tell you who I see right now is Susan.
Oh, Wanda Gonzalez also has her.
Okay, thank you for helping me with that. So I'll go to Susan and then Wanda.
Okay. One of our participants is in the Victims of Crime organization. And so they've noticed an increase in specifically anti-Asian hate crimes or calls about that, as well as an increase in domestic violence. And I know they had mentioned ACC is doing the senior escort program and bystander training. And there was an incident that one person mentioned where a person was told to go back to your own country. And in another organization, she feels the staff is more hyper vigilant because they're afraid something might happen. Maybe nothing has happened, but they think it may happen. And then as far as challenges, the biggest thing would be needing to have a communication plan, cultural competency training for organizations and staffs, providers being told or informed that they need to check for understanding, full understanding before they do things or assume that these people understand what they need to know or what's happening right now. And to have a trauma-informed approach for working with the Afghan population, as well as just the general ignorance about people of other races. You assume everyone is, Chinese or Japanese are all the same. People asking people, where are you from? Because they hear an accent, or even if you don't have an accent, your skin's different, your color's different, where are you from? Assuming, how many Caucasians are asked, where are you from? Unless they have a specific accent or something like that. That's the most of it. Okay.
Susan, thank you so much for sharing those thoughts. Really helpful to our conversation and to kind of grounding what we're thinking about today. And Wanda, let me go to you next for a report back. And then I see JP behind Wanda.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to share. Our group really engaged, and Bree with the Project Sentinel talked about in regards to the anti-Asian crimes, what her agency is doing in terms of housing discrimination and being able to provide equal access to housing opportunities for our Asian community. So I thought that was great. In terms of the resettlement barriers. Everyone agreed that language is a huge one. Of course, the cultural shock as well. Lorena shared how just finding basic resources like transportation and jobs definitely are things that are going to be necessary for anyone trying to settle into our communities. Everything gets affected by these barriers, such as work, school, financial problems, and the list goes on. So thank you for the opportunity to share.
Thank you, Wanda. And JP, I have you next.
Hi, I was just mentioning that on Tuesday, I went to a Zoom meeting from San Diego, and it was called Our Stories AAPI Practitioners Reflect on the Impact of Anti-Asian Hate. And I put the information on the chat. There's stopaapihate.org is a website you can check out, as well as the one I mentioned about Holler Back, which is how to empower people that both for Asian hate, but also for bystanders to do something when they see hate. And then the other thing we brought up was the Afghan. It just so happens that the switchboardta.org, which I also put in the chat, is they have specific things for Afghan refugees, and they're having a Zoom meeting next Tuesday at 11 o'clock if you're interested. I just have to say that.
Fantastic resources. I'm so glad you thought to put them in the chat. That
I know,
saves them for
I
us.
just
Yeah.
happened, I mean, otherwise I wouldn't know, but I just happened to go to that meeting. And so now, and I just recently sold my house in Sacramento and lived in Mexico as a refugee for 7 weeks. And I kind of understand what it is to have another language and another culture and trying to navigate through all that. So
Yeah.
I guess a side note is Google Translate. If you have that app, it's great because you put on conversation almost any language and you can talk back and forth, which is very, very, very helpful. So
Yeah.
and it's free, Google Translate.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, JP. And I'm going to go next to Stacy. Stacy, would you share back from your group?
Yeah, so we're in group number 2. A few of us share pretty much, along the same lines of what other groups have shared, but, also the fear of going out into the community, being, Asian. And for my program, my organization, we actually have like a task force because we have programs throughout California. So we have different programs from different part of California coming together as a task force working on, anti-hate crimes. So we have that as an ongoing thing. And then in terms of challenges, again, same thing, language barriers, culture shock, inability of finding jobs.
I keep losing my mute and unmute. Thank you so much for sharing that, Stacy. And I think Leslie has her hand up. Oh, 2 Leslies have their hands up. So Leslie Adorno de Chasing, and then we'll go to Leslie Gatto.
Thank you, Anne. So we talked about, for the first question, we actually had somebody from DHA that specializes in family stability department. And so we talked about that there's been an uptick in anti-Asian crimes and domestic violence, and as recently as yesterday, inquiry. So this is an ongoing thing. And I think sometimes when things happen, the media goes away and the talk about it, but people still in the community have fears. And that's even kids going into schools. I know there was a big thing in the school districts about sending our kids back to school because there was so much fear going on. And so that's something that we should probably keep in the forefront of, finding organizations that can help, finding resources, maybe getting together resource guides that we can give to people, that we can just educate ourselves on, helping others in the community. The second question was just, it's on the forefront. So we're really excited to hear the presentation today from IRC. We talked about some interesting challenges. Of course, you're going to have the language, cultural issues, and also we thought about from our perspective on how to be respectful. I know Dr. Moreland brought up being just respectful of their culture and communicating with the Afghan refugees that come to be able to help them, and knowing where to go for resources. There's, of course, the cultural differences, but we also talked about having the identity. They have just left their entire country, which has been taken over, and some of them still have family there. that are trying to, they're very worried about the situation and family. They've left, some of them, their actual parents or grandparents or aunties, cousins, people that they've been close with their whole lives. So we really are in need of finding resources to help people that are still here, maybe finding, getting family back here. The process is very difficult. And so I also put in the chat, anybody who knows of resources, I'm trying to help a few families now, but there's a lot more than just those few families. So we just, being able to pull together and talk to each other and really help each other in our community right now. So
Thank you so much, Leslie. And I'll go to Leslie Gatto, and that'll be our last comment, and then we'll move into our presentations. Leslie Gatto.
Hi, I'm Leslie. I'm from the Sacramento Public Library. I was with a group with Paulo Jorge Pinto, who is from International Programs and Global Engagement. Also Deanna Pineda, who represents two nonprofits, homeca.org, which is a 501c3, and then was it 6 beds? I think it was a regional care facility community. So they are working mostly with the homeless and trying to find housing for them. I have to admit, we barely got to the 2 questions because we were just interested in where everyone was coming from. Deanna did touch on the first question about Asian hate crimes. And she seemed to feel that there was more of it at the beginning of the pandemic. I'm not saying, she didn't say it went away at this point, but still it was a lot worse at the beginning. Alex Owens was also part of this group, and she is an undergrad student at CSUS with she's in the student assistant program with the governor's office. And then Angela Lee is from my sister's house. So we we decided to wait to see what Angela has to say, because I guess she's a presenter today. So we're very excited to hear about her presentation. So anyway, I'm sorry, that's about as far as we got. So
Leslie, that's fantastic. And it's a great lead into where we're going next. So it actually is my great pleasure to be able to introduce the speakers we have today. And I'll first introduce Brinley Markowitz. Brinley Markowitz is volunteer and donations coordinator with the International Rescue Committee. And the presentation that we'll hear from them has to do with an overview of refugee resettlement, the IRC's refugee services and programs, actions that community members take to support newly arrived refugees, which ties in directly with what we've been talking about in our breakout groups, and specific information regarding the crisis in Afghanistan and the resettlement of Afghan refugees in Sacramento. And with that, I ask you to help me welcome Brinley Markowitz.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me to present today and as a guest at this event. I am going to share my screen to pull up my presentation. The International Rescue Committee is a non-governmental agency that works around the globe to respond to the world's worst humanitarian crises. It was founded in 1933 at the request of Albert Einstein. We work in over 40 countries and 26 US cities to help displaced people and victims of oppression to survive, reclaim control of their future, and strengthen their communities. So here you can see a map of the countries that we work in. And here is a map of the states that we work in. As I mentioned, we work in 25 cities. This map is a little outdated because a few of our offices have closed in the recent years. But if you take a look, we have 4 offices in NorCal. So that's our Sacramento office. We have one in Oakland, one in San Jose, and one in Turlock. And our NorCal region is very unique in that all 4 of our offices collaborate very closely and coordinate to serve the refugee community as a whole in Northern California. And the IRC as a whole is also unique in that we work across the entire arc of conflict. So that goes from responding within 72 hours to crisis to the point of resettlement of a refugee in the United States, to providing services for self-sufficiency for that refugee, and then to providing immigration services for refugees to obtain citizenship after 5 years of arrival. So from that point of crisis all the way to a refugee becoming a US citizen. So who is a refugee? A refugee is an individual who has been forced to flee his or her country because of persecution, war, or violence. And in doing so, in fleeing, an individual has to cross an international border to gain that status of refugee. This is a definition that was established by the United Nations in 1951. And in order to gain that status, a refugee has to have a well-founded fear of persecution on the basis of race, religion, membership of a particular social group, nationality, or a particular political opinion. Oftentimes there is intersection between these different groups, but an individual only has to meet one of those categories in order to qualify as a refugee. And as of the end of 2020, there were 82 million displaced individuals around the world. 26 million of those people had actually fled to another country outside of their home country and therefore become refugees. And around half of that population, of that 26 million, are under the age of 18. So half of the world's refugee population is under the age of 18. I also want to note that less than 1% of refugees are actually resettled to a third country. And refugees who do come to the US pass through a very extensive screening process that takes at least 36 months. And it includes 5 federal agencies. Refugees are one of the most vetted groups of people in the world, and Syrian refugees actually go through additional security measures as well before they can be resettled in the US. So the IRC has myriad programs and services that are aimed to help arriving refugees gain self-sufficiency. So some of those are resettlement services, which are provided upon arrival and up to 90 days after arrival, immigration services. We have anti-trafficking and outreach services, which are services for victims of human trafficking. We have a New Roots program, which offers urban agriculture and community farming. And we have job training and placement. So I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about a few of these key programs. So our refugee resettlement program begins at the point of touchdown at the airport for clients. So refugees will be met at the airport by a caseworker, and that period of resettlement, as I mentioned, is 90 days. And within that period, refugees are assisted with housing, employment, benefits, health insurance, enrollment in English classes, cultural orientation to the US, and referrals to internal and external services. For resettlement, intensive case management is also offered for refugees who are experiencing more intensive medical needs that can't be met just through the regular refugee resettlement service program. Economic empowerment is our program that's designed to help refugees attain financial self-sufficiency. So the program begins with job readiness training. We have classes on US work culture and navigating the employment process in order to lead to job placement. And then beyond our early employment programs, we have some specific career development programs for young adults to help them pursue higher education and advance in their careers. We also offer vocational English courses and financial coaching. Our New Roots program, as I mentioned, is a program that's unique to IRC, and it offers urban or community gardening for refugees. We have a few different community gardens across the Sacramento area, and it also provides refugees with nutritional education and some other resources for healthy eating. So in recent months, everyone's minds have been on the crisis in Afghanistan. I can speak a little bit more about numbers afterwards if anyone has any questions, but just a brief overview. The IRC has been operating in Afghanistan since 1988. And since the regime change in August, we've continued to provide on the ground essential support while protecting our staff in the country. And we are also working at key points in the US to assist with the entire resettlement process. So get Afghans who arrive processed with their immigration documents, with health needs, and then get them sent to various cities where they will then be resettled by local resettlement agencies. And Sacramento has actually historically been a primary destination for Afghan SIVs and refugees in the United States. We have a very large Afghan community, a thriving Afghan community. And since August, with recent developments in Afghanistan, we have continued to be a primary destination for Afghan evacuees leaving Afghanistan. And we are really proud at the Sacramento office to be offering really key, crucial support for Afghans who are in need. So ways that you can make a difference are to donate or become a volunteer. So I know I think I'm running a little bit short on time, but basically ways that you can help, we have a fund that you can donate to, which is raising money for housing costs and rental and utility assistance for evacuee families. There are ways that you can purchase supplies for incoming families as well. We have Amazon wish lists for each of our NorCal offices. And those wish lists have different items that refugees are needing upon arrival. You can also stay updated with new developments and advocate on the national level for the US to support Afghans. And these are links that I can share afterwards with anyone who's interested. And then you can definitely reach out and we can coordinate other ways to support. So some of those ways would be to organize a bike or a laptop drive. You could collect and store donated furniture items. We have some requirements around that, which I can discuss a little bit further. You can help us with client move-ins. And you can also help us collect and distribute refugee welcome kits, which are kits of donated items that refugees are needing upon arrival. You can also apply to volunteer or intern with us online. That is the link to do so. Our volunteer commitment is typically 4 to 5 hours per week for a minimum of 4 months. or you can work kind of on an on-call basis if you're working through a community organization that we've partnered with. If you're volunteering with us directly, we have lots of different opportunities in all of our departments. And we're also looking for interns. Internships are a paid 240-hour commitment, an unpaid, I think I said paid, unpaid, unfortunately, 240-hour commitment. And because they're unpaid, we do encourage people who are in university to pursue academic credit. We do have many open positions on our staff if you're nearing graduation, and that internship could continue into a full-time position with us. Most of our opportunities, volunteering and interning, are virtual right now, except for some of our client move-ins and things like that. But we really need people who are passionate and committed to this cause and willing to fight with us to support some of the most vulnerable people in the world, really. So thank you so much for having me to present about our work and for listening to my presentation. This is the information for contacting us regarding volunteer and donations inquiries. And I don't know if we want to take questions now, but I am certainly open to any questions.
Brinley, we do have a few minutes for questions. And so I'll ask folks if they are interested in raising a question at this point. Raise your hand. We'll do our best to spot you. And you can also use the chat. I'll try to monitor the chat for questions as well.
Okay.
And I see a question from Leonardo Chavez. Leonardo, would you go ahead with your question?
Yes, hi. Good afternoon, everyone. Brentley, I have a question for you. I did apply for volunteer position or possible internship employment opportunities at International Rescue Center. I would say maybe about 2 weeks ago or so. How long does it usually take to hear back from your company or your organization in regards to that?
So thank you for asking about that. We have been pretty backlogged with everything going on in Afghanistan. We've been kind of working on catching up with processing volunteer applications. I appreciate you pointing that out to me, so I will certainly look for your application. But at this point, I would say probably about 2 to 3 weeks. Eventually, we'd like to get it to a point where it's a shorter time frame than that. But yeah, just unfortunately, because we have so many things going on in addressing the Afghan crisis, it's been a little bit crazier than usual.
All right, understandable. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that my application didn't get lost in space in the internet somewhere, because I do want to.
Yeah,
I do want to, do my part as soon as possible.
Absolutely, and I will make note of that and check out your application right away.
And Leonardo, thanks for raising that question. And Brinley, I just wanted to thank you too for the great presentation and all the resources that you're bringing to our awareness. Even just the information that it could take 36 months or maybe always takes at least 36 months. That's just a really long time for people to be in that kind of state of limbo. And I think one of the things we discussed as a concern was, that unsettled feeling. So that can really wear on people. And I'm wondering if there's maybe one more question before we go on to our next speaker.
And there's questions in the chat.
Oh, thank you. I was trying to monitor that and I didn't do a good job. Thank you, Marissa. So the two questions I see, the first one is from Herberto. Are there any upcoming events and meetings from the various resettlement agencies to learn more on updates and sharing with our community?
I don't know about other resettlement agencies. I can't speak to that. I also don't know if I have any further presentations scheduled, but we are certainly open to speaking at any sorts of community events. If anyone wants to reach out, I would be happy to schedule, any sort of speaking engagement. And if you're interested in learning more, you can email me directly. In response to Crystal, your question, I can share this this presentation and the different links to help with someone at Sac State, whether that's Anne or Marissa. Marissa, yeah, I can share that with you, and you can send that out to everyone who participated today. And if you feel so inclined, then you can take action to assist us.
And I want to acknowledge that there's several other questions, and I think what we'll do, since they're written in the chat, and a lot of them have to do with questions in terms of contact information and things like that, we'll have Brinley put contact information in the chat for those folks who want to do follow-up. And just for the sake of time, we'll move on to our next presentations.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you too, Brinley. I'm very excited today to be able to introduce to you two more people who are joining us. Nilda Valmores is the Executive Director, and Angela Lay is the API Project Specialist, both with My Sister's House. And they're going to be talking today about the details of the resources they provide for 4 different programs. I'll outline those briefly here. One is a 24/7 multilingual crisis line. Another is outreach and education. Another program is shelter and services. And a 4th program is Women to Work program. They're also going to talk about some of the resources that they have regarding domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking. We're just delighted to have them, and I welcome you, Nilda, and also Angela.
Thank you, Anne, for having Angela and I here today. So grateful to have Angela as part of our team, and she's put together a beautiful PowerPoint slide. And just in connection with IRC's presentation, so we do help refugees. Not all our clients are refugees. My Sister's House focus, for those of you who may not be familiar with us, is helping domestic violence survivors and survivors of sexual assault and human trafficking. What's different a little bit about us is reflected in our mission, which is to serve Asian Pacific Islander and other underserved women. And we do it by providing culturally appropriate services, including a safe haven, our job training, and other community services. So just again, we serve survivors of all ethnicities, though, from day one we have, and we will always do so, but we feel as like we try to have that cultural responsive focus, that specialty. So we are Sacramento based. We are the only culturally responsive shelter in the Sacramento Central Valley. There are other My Sister's Houses in the nation. We are not connected to one another. So if you don't look up the right one, you might be sending your donation to Georgia. So please make sure it comes to Sacramento instead. Okay. And I've already outlined the other stuff, but just to go back for a little bit, Angela, the last slide. So this is a picture of My Sister's House treasures and our wonderful board members as we cut the ribbon to opening up the store. I think it was last week. Oh, okay, thanks. So as Anne mentioned, we like to think of our services as reaching or crossing the continuum of services for victims of violence, and especially gender violence, as domestic violence affects primarily women, but not always women. So we start off with prevention. That's our outreach and education efforts, because it's important for people to recognize the signs of domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking. And then we intervene as appropriate, and that includes a 24/7 multilingual helpline and providing shelter and housing to get people back on their feet but the real back on their feet part is after they have a place to stay, after they're comfortable. And they don't have to be with us to be receiving that help. That part is like, how do you pay the bills going forward? And that includes our Women to Work program, and that includes our legal services, our counseling, and our job training and support. You can see from those stats that we have been in business for 20 years and that we have helped a lot of people. Actually, our shelter program is actually our smallest program because we operate one emergency 6-bed shelter, we mainstream or Pan-Asian 6-bed shelter, and 2 transitional shelters. And we have just opened up a shelter for women of the Muslim faith and culture. And so we do anticipate, because of the times, I mean, and we had started this effort even before the Afghan crisis started. And so we believe that the Afghan crisis will definitely impact the participants in that shelter. Just a different picture of, again, the different services that My Sister's House provides. Our housing program is not just our shelter. It does also include, when we have grant funds available, motel, hotel money. As you can imagine, we've really expensed that out already this year. Yeah, and we have other support like clothes and food, so forth. We operate a 24/7 crisis line, which is the first point of entry for My Sister's House services. So if you have a client that might need assistance, all they have to do is call our crisis line. We have been open during all of the pandemic, and we will continue to be open. We also have provided more flexibility, so more telephonic, more virtual support though too, so that people don't have to come in. But usually the first point of entry, regardless, is to call our 24/7 helpline. And if you have someone that you know that speaks another language and needs some special assistance, if you could give us a heads up, and so we can try to coordinate the times of, so that we can make sure, for example, that our Vietnamese or our Hmong speaking staff member or Tagalog speaking staff member or whatever is available at the time when the person calls. That's a big help. There are hundreds of dialects in our Asian Pacific Islander culture. And so I wish we had enough money to keep someone or keep enough people, 24/7 staff reflecting all those different languages, but we don't. So we are very dependent upon lots of wonderful volunteers along with our staff to provide the assistance. But what they can expect from the crisis line is some safety planning and referrals. People don't necessarily leave right away, and hopefully they'll get the empathy and support that they need, and then some future assistance as they desire. Right. I've talked already about our Muslim shelter, which was one of our goals for 2021. So we are very excited about that as we start celebrating our next 20 years. We had it at My Sister's Café. We also offer different support groups, as you can see in the next one. We have our sexual assault awareness prevention group that we're starting. We actually have offered it before, but we restarted every once in a while. So the next session is starting next week. And then we also have a pledge that we've started. It actually has more than 100. I think we raised the goal now for youth and young adults between 16 to 26. So we have different support groups. We actually also have a Spanish speaking support group that operates Wednesdays. And then we also have a Black survivors group that we just had a little fun graduation for them this weekend. Two ways that you could help support My Sister's House is our job training. These are two social enterprises which support our Women to Work program, support our survivors getting job training, and that's My Sister's Café and My Sister's House Treasures. So My Sister's Café has wonderful food, soups, salads, sandwiches that can be made, and then we have the regular specials that are, I usually call it American food with an Asian twist. So think banh mi sandwich if you don't want a roast beef sandwich, right? Think curry over rice. I think today is Taco Thursday special with some spicy tacos with Asian spices on it, right? And then we also have wonderful soups there and coffees and tea. So that's from basically 8:30 to 2:30 Monday through Friday. Yes, thanks Leonardo for your comment. And then we just opened up my sister's house treasures, which is meant to be a gift store, thrift store, and it's in Old Japantown at 2233 10th Street, just a few doors down from Osakaya and across the street from Binchoyaki. So come if you have old treasures, anything from books to Hawaiian shirts to other clothing to knickknacks to tea sets. Please come and check it, bring them. Also look at the new things that we have for sale. It's so fun to go there and check it out because like every day there's new things that are there. And it's fun knowing that our survivors are learning wonderful skills and getting supported in terms of their job training stuff. I'll just give you a story. One of my favorite stories right now is that one of our survivors, who is an immigrant woman who was never allowed to work because of her partner, we were able to help make sure that she got a food service certification. And then now she just got the food management test. So she can make bucks. And we were a part of her story in terms of making that happen and changing what's going to be her future. And I don't know if I told you that November 6th, we're planning on having kind of a coming out party for my sister's house treasures, which is, we're going to celebrate the old Japantown there where we are. So hope that you can come there. And we also hope that you will come this weekend to our Run for a Safe Haven. It's a smaller run walk. You don't have to run, you could walk. You could get ready for getting rid of those Halloween pounds and those or those COVID pounds or those Thanksgiving and holiday pounds, right? It'll be a lot of fun. We'll have stuff for kids. We'll have a costume contest if you want to dress up. It's at William Land Park near the Freeport Sutterville side, and it starts this Saturday at 8 a.m. And you can come with a crowd, you can join a team and save some money, or you could just support a survivor for coming. And we also will have info and resource tables. And if you would like your organization to have an info table there, please just send us a note and we can make it happen this week too. Okay. And I'm available to answer any questions, right? I think Angela's having some mic issues, so you might be just stuck with my answers.
I really appreciate your presentation, Nilda. I was watching some of the chat going on, and we're so excited about some of your new programs. I see in particular the Muslim shelter being appreciated and the coconut curry being appreciated on Fridays. So are there questions that I have from folks who are, we have a few minutes for questions, and I'll just look and see if I see any raised hands. And others who spot raised hands can help direct me. Nilda, I was going to put in the chat the Run for a Safe Haven. Was it .org or .com?
It's .runforasafehaven.com, I think. And now you've got me wondering, Anne. Normally I could do it, and then now it's let me see if I can figure it out, or Angela can figure it out. I think it's .com.
Okay, I almost had it, and then I was like, oh, not quite. I missed that part.
But I'm going to also put my email address for
okay, good.
everyone. I also want to say that, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and this is an issue that affects 1 out of every 4 women. And for Asian Pacific Islanders, that number is a lot higher. Today is, I don't know if you know, is people were supposed to wear purple today in trying to help raise domestic violence awareness. That's why, like, I really appreciate people coming out, and I know our survivors have too, in terms of coming out for the run, because we just got a note the other day that said a person learned about my sister's house because of one of our fundraisers. And that always happens every year with our run, that people realize that they're in need of help. And I'm so grateful that we have our fundraiser so that they can begin to connect the dots and get the help that they need.
Nilda, thank you so much. There's so many things that you're touching on today that I look at our audience and I'm thinking, boy, we reflect in many ways the people that you're reaching out to support. So there are a lot of your programs that are reaching out to women. There are also programs for Asian and Pacific Islander, the new program for the Muslim women. And I just appreciate so much that this is something you've brought to our community. And congratulations on 20 years. I remember when my sister's house first came to Sacramento, and so glad that you've been as successful and longstanding as you have been, and that your programs are thriving and continuing to grow. If I don't see any other questions, I hope somebody would speak up if there was another question. I'm going to go ahead and just close out this section of our program today. I just so want to bring to everyone's attention that we're here together for a reason. We're here together because we care about our community. We care about the folks who are in our community and may need additional support for one reason or another, in one way or another. And our efforts certainly are only a small percentage of what we know is out there. I ask you, though, that when you leave here today, as best you can, you spread the message that you've taken from today's Network Cafe. There may be others in your organization, friends in your neighborhood, but we want to make sure that Network Cafe has as wide impact as it can possibly have. And we do that through you. You are the people who help us to make sure that the word gets out there. We are wondering ourselves if we're going to come back to being in person at some point in the spring. So we will keep you posted on that. We're not quite there yet. This is going to be our last Network Cafe for the calendar year for 2021. But I'm going to hand this over to our beautiful team for some announcements and for a raffle.
Thanks, Anne. So I will just host this announcement section. If anyone would like to make announcements, please go ahead and put your name in the chat, and then I'll call on you. You can unmute yourself and make your announcement. I think Cassandra put her name so fast, so you could go first. Cassandra, I.
Hello, sorry, I think I kind of misunderstood and reacted too quickly, but I guess while I'm at it, I'm with Sacramento Public Library in the Adult Literacy Tutoring Department. So just want to remind everyone of our free adult tutoring starting from very basic literacy through high school, and we have the free accredited Career Online High School Diploma Program. Thank you.
Thank you. Alexis D.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. First of all, thank you to the CEC for hosting this. This has been awesome to make it so accessible during COVID. So I'm Alexis Dumonchel. I'm an advocate with Teen Success, Inc. We are a program that supports young moms who are working to get their high school diploma or their GED. And then we encourage them and support them through post-secondary if that's the path they decide to take as well. So we're really focusing on 2 generations at a time, working with our moms and their babies. And we do have spots available. So if you do know any young moms right now, we don't have any age restrictions. They just need to be working to get their high school diploma or their GED. No proof of citizenship, income. We don't require anything like that. Again, the only requirements is that they are working to get their high school diploma or their GED. And we have Sacramento programs, Fresno, San Jose. We're a little bit all over the place. We've got a location down in Monterey too. So if you know any young moms or know any organizations that'd be interested in learning more, I'm going to put my information in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I am going to skip the line for a moment and make my own announcement. And that is that if you are a Sac State student, I know there are some here, and you are looking to get credit for the Leadership Initiative, please send me a private message through the chat with your SAC Link ID number. And then I will upload that directly to Hornet Hub this afternoon. Okay, thank you for that announcement. And Laura C will go next, followed by Rose A.
Hi, I'm Laura from Set a Head Start, and I just wanted to make the announcement again that we are still looking for families into our Head Start programs for both center base and home base, and we're also hiring a lot of teachers right now. So if you know anyone who is just getting into the child development field, it's a great opportunity with some great benefits, and I will also put my email in the chat.
Hi everyone, my name is Rose. Can you guys hear me? Sorry, my computer keeps telling me I have microphone issues.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I am a social worker with Regional Transit, and I help people that are experiencing homelessness along regional transit properties or along the tracks. I help them connect to various resources, including housing, transportation access, doctors, whatever it is that they need. So if anyone has, the need for a social worker, please feel free to contact me, and I am putting my information in the chat box.
Excellent, thank you. I'm just scanning the chat list one more time. I don't believe I have any. Latanya, go ahead, you're next to make an announcement.
That's okay, JP could do it. Okay. Sorry to put you on the spot.
Oh, no. I just as a reminder, California got another 6 months with FEMA for the COVID support. So we have Cal Voices is just a part of Cal Hope. If you go to calhope.org, they have resources for a warm and text chat lines as well as support groups. It's all free. It's all anonymous. So we're here to support, everyone that's dealing with the COVID crisis.
Great, thank you for that. Latanya, would you like to go?
No, we work for the same place.
Okay.
So she just said the same thing I was going to say.
That's what I thought might have been the case. Okay. Okay, well, if that's the case, then we will move on to our raffle and our wheel of names. So we will be giving out $25 gift cards. I believe they are pre-selected to Target.
That's correct.
Okay, and now we are waiting for, let me have a quick, Anita, are you here? Are you ready for that?
Yes, hello.
Okay.
Can I share my screen, please? Am I able to share my screen?
You should be able to. Lorena might have to take hers down. Okay.
Okay. Okay, hello everyone. So we were randomly selecting 5 people, and just to be aware, music will be playing. So if you have earbuds on, please lower down your volume. So best of luck, everyone. And so our first winner .
And Angela is here.
Are you guys able to hear the music? I wasn't sure. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, let me stop share and reshare again.
Also, I'll just say that Anita is one of our fabulous students at Sac State. And she has volunteered this last year to be one of our ambassadors for the CEC. And she's a social work major. So if anyone needs social work students, we have Anita. We also have Lorena, who's on the call, and Amber.
Can we proceed to the second person? Good. Okay.
Yeah.
Melissa.
Melissa M is here.
Okay, great. Kyle W.
Kyle W is here.
Fantastic.
Jazzy and Corey.
Natalie.
Natalie G is here.
And our last winner.
I think we may need to select again. I don't see Katie on the list.
Okay.
Jessica P is here. Yay.
Congrats, everyone.
I'm thinking that might be my cue. I'm not sure, Marissa. I'm looking to make sure I'm supposed to speak, but I know that one of the things we wanted to do before everybody left today was to make sure you have our January date on your calendar. So we will be picking up Network Cafe again in January, and January the 20th, the third Thursday in January is when we'll start back. So we're hoping we'll see all of you then. I don't think at this point we know who our speakers are, but we will be planning that in the next month or two, and can't wait to see you in the new year. Boy, sounds really early to be saying that, but Happy New Year.
Thank you guys. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. Happy